All right, so this is the meeting for Wednesday, April 1st. Again, was here at 11 o'clock for any questions. Nobody showed up. Hope some of this is getting done. I have activated the test, so hopefully some of you will get that done. And just so you know, you kind of know this is what I was talking about. This is an example of once. I can kind of go in and see, what you've done, not only individually, what days you've logged in and how many pages you looked at and how long you were there and all that stuff. But I can also do it as a class as well. So not a whole lot of people going online. So chapter 3, chapter 4, those are what we're kind of focusing on. And just so I wanted to share that with you. What I want to talk about today is, I don't know if I'll get to chapter 4. Don't seem to be any big rush since nobody seems to be going over that. I was planning on having that test on Friday for those of you that couldn't do chapter 3, but we'll see how that goes. Because there are 2 chapter 3 labs that I think are kind of important. And this first one is 32513. And you need to kind of be able to do this one in order to do the next one, 32514, which is the one where we're kind of doing the same thing, but we're tying it into a Raspberry Pi. So what we're going to do with this one is do what we call a RESTful API. And by that we mean we're going to use HTTP protocols to interact from one application to another. And what we're going to do in the next lab is to do that, but also have it interact with a physical device. So it would be similar to turning on your thermostat from your phone while you're at another location. All right, in order to do this, a couple of things you got to do. First is you got to download and run Postman. So Postman is this application here. Now it's for Windows, 32-bit, 64-bit. There's a Mac version. Okay, so there should be a reason why we can't get this. Because again, it doesn't matter what the operating system is. We're using browsers. We're using HTTP protocol. So anyway, that's the first thing you need to download and install. And that's what we're going to use to deliver our code to the website. That's kind of where they came up with the name Postman. We're going to use the post feature, and of course, a postman delivers mail. And what we're going to do, this is the other web page that we're going to go to. We'll talk about that in a minute. But basically what we're going to do is add to WebEx Teams. So this is a WebEx team, and these are some of the ones that I've been involved with over the past. If you notice, some of you are even in there, or I believe these used to be students of mine. I don't know. I never hear from them. Well, I did hear from Alex. But anyway, we did this actually at the back, way back in, I think, September or August of your junior year. So some of you, my point is, some of you may have an account. So when you log in here, try your email, the email you use with Netacad. Maybe you'll remember a password. If not, you can do forget password. You can create a new account if you want. But like I say, if you run into some issues, might be because you already have an account. So where this gets used a lot is last year, like when we were in Toronto, they created one of these groups so that these people from all over the country, we're all getting the same messages. We're all getting the same images or things that we need to know. And even during the conference itself, when things would be going on in the conference, like there might be a presentation that you could get a copy of. They did a bunch of pictures. But if something came up that was important and you want to make sure it got to everybody, this is how they would communicate rather than trying to, get everybody's text numbers and things like that. You create an account, they invite you to the meeting, you join, we go from there. So over the years, I've done a couple of those. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a room or space, and then from the Postman, we're going to create one, but we're going to do it, from another program. So first thing, you got to download Postman. And next, the WebEx. So you're going to go here. They say some of you may have already have an account. If you can remember what your password is, or if you want to do hey, I forgot my password, send it to you. Go ahead and do that. But you're going to need a WebEx account, whether you create a new one or use one that we created. Because the one we created actually was right here. You can see, you may not be able to see because of the size, but you guys back on 8/23/2008 all joined here. So that means that you probably have an account, and might be able to use that account. All right. So when you go here, this screen over here on the right is a little different. They've changed it. That's why I wanted to kind of go through this. You still have the icons over here on the left, but notice that the little, you still have the people and you have the phone and all that. But notice that, the house is gone and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit different looking. Now yours might have the help bot on there. Mine may not, because I've used this in the past. But this was just sort of a, hey, start here and we'll walk you through some things. If you don't have that, it's no big deal. We're going to do it the same way anyway. We're going to create a team, or what they call now a space. So plus button. So this button here is this button over here on the left. When you click it, you're going to create a space. You're going to give the space a name. Well, when we first start, we can just call, if you don't have it already, call it help bot. And then before I hit create, I have to invite people there. So just like I had you guys put your emails in there, that's how you create and invite people. So they give you can put real people in there if you want. If we actually had a class, I'd have our class go back and we'd use the one that we created, but I don't know if anybody would come to that either. But they have some generic names here that you can paste in and use as an example. These are not real people, so don't go looking for these people. They are I put the rid of that one. I think I put the period in there. There we go. So now I have two people in here, along with myself. That's what this part of the lab is. Right? It says edit space settings. Well, when you edit space settings, it's a little bit different. So right now I'm going to create it. After I put these people in, I'm going to create it. But I don't want it to be called help bot. So in the past, you had sort of like this menu over here. That is sort of up here now. So a little bit different place. So I'm going to click there, edit space settings. And what I can do here now is give it a new name. Now they suggest calling it, marketing ideas. I already have that in there. So I'm going to give it a little different name. Doesn't really matter what you name it. They're just trying to show you how to use it, how to, once if you create something, how you can change it. So now I got marketing ideas. I already have this one here. And if you notice, got the same people in there that I have here. All right. So again, trying to show you how the lab is there, but a little bit different. If you wanted to add somebody new, so I've created it. Now I want to add somebody new. Again, over here on the right, the icon used to look like this, sort of like your Google page icon. Well, it looks like this now, where it says View People. So I click on there. I'm going to add a new person to the team. And that is this person. Now, one of the reasons they want you to add this person is a little bit different than the other ones. He doesn't necessarily have an account right now. They can't find him anywhere. So you could send him an invite, but then he's going to have to, create an account with that email, and then he'll get a little, his name and a little icon if he chooses to do that when he creates his account. So they're just trying to show you that. All right, so that part takes us down to here. That's creating a space, adding people into the space, changing the name of the space. It's a little different looking than what it looks like in the lab. All right, so if you think that's bad, this gets worse. Because some of these links don't necessarily work anymore. So this particular link here is actually, if I paste it in here, and I try to go to it, I can't find it. Now, for some reason, if I paste that in Chrome, can't find it. But if I go to here, and again, I couldn't get this one to open up in Explorer either, but for some reason, it opens up in Chrome for me. This is where you have to go now. You really can go to this one. You have to go to the developer site. Now, to get to here, it's a little different. So we can't use that particular link, but we still want to get this stuff here. You go to documentation. And in documentation, now, and if you kind of look up here, you'll see how it has developer, WebEx, docs. It's not quite the same as this. So the way we get to it, go to documentation, go to API reference. That's kind of what we're doing. We're doing an API. And scroll down to where it says rooms. And if you look at this up here, right, and compare it to here, that's where we want to be. Okay? Just can't get there through this. And notice that this looks a little different than the way it does now. It's basically the same. These are the different functions that we're going to use in order to create a new room through an API. So we have get, post, and and all those things. I'm going to click on the get. I'm going to go here and I'm going to click on this right here. And that sends me to this page again, which is a little different than the way it used to be. And what this will do is give me basically all the information that I see here. Because you got to remember, we're going to be doing this from another application. So I don't have access to this right here. But I want to see, through my other application, well, what's already here. So I'm going to send a get to that web page and say, hey, get me the rooms that are listed there. Now notice it says Cisco Spark. If you look at the curriculum here, it says Cisco Spark. That's because when they originally did this, it wasn't called WebEx, it was called Spark. They've just left a lot of the URLs the same. All right, so how does this work? Well, I forgot I got to log in. Excuse me. I have to log in with the WebEx account that I created. All right. So what this does is I'll send this information, and notice here's what I'm asking for: team ID. I was hoping I could make this bigger. There we go. So here's like what I'm asking for, which is down here, the query parameters. This is, when I send the get, here's what I want to get. And that's what they're describing in the lab down here, are these things over here, the query parameters. So get is going to get me that information. And then they have a question here that says, well, instead of retrieving the rooms, what do you think would happen with post? Well, you want to find out what happens with post, go back, look at post. Post creates a room. Because, get, we're just asking for information. Post, we're getting stuff from there. That's what allows, post allows me to write. I'm posting it, like think about it as, putting it on you're posting it up on a sign, sign up on a wall or something. All right, so back to the get. Once you're logged in, and we'll come back to what this authorization is, because that's what we're going to use in Postman. I'm going to run the program. And when I run the program, here's my response. If you notice, it gives me all of the things that I have over here. Marketing ideas 1, marketing ideas 1, marketing ideas, Toronto conference, model driven, Alex, all these different spaces or people that I have. Now, the other thing that's important here is this little icon where it says 200 OK. Because what that means, again, we're using browser code, right? So if we were doing a Wireshark and we were going back and forth and we downloaded a web page and the web page downloaded successfully, we would be able to go in there and find a 200 return code. I'm sure some of you have seen these before, 403, 404, So the browsers are talking to each other, saying, hey, here's what's the problem. So if I run this API, I send this information, say, get me this, and it comes back successfully, that's how I know it worked. So if I needed to do something with these, I have the code right here. I can copy it, paste it, put it into any other application I want. This code will get me the information that I want. Problem, though, with some of this is I can't, if I just go to this code, if you tried to run this and not be logged in, no, it's not going to run, because it's like, what rooms do you want for what, group? And you have to have authorization. Well, that's what this is up here. So like when you go to Steam and you order a game, then they send you a code, right? And then you enter that code, and then you can access, when you enter that code, it knows it's you, and it knows that you are allowed to access that game. And you can do it from like different computers. Same thing here. The Postman is going to be like the application that we're going to use to connect to WebEx, and WebEx is sort of like Steam, But how does it know, like, well, what games do I have there? What am I allowed to play? This authorization code right here, which we have to include, in the app that we would be designing, with Postman. All right, so just to recap real quickly, got to download Postman. This part is a little bit different. It still has the edit, but you got to do it from the little gear icon. I changed the name. It still has the plus to add people, but it says now, people. So I got to use this to get to the space settings, and this to add people. All right. So how does all this then come together? What we're going to do in the API is we're going to send a request to WebEx. More specifically, we're going to send it, we're going to give it a command, and that command is going to be, because we're actually going to use post, the command is actually going to be this. We're going to use post. So I could, even if I wanted to right now, using this API, I could come down here, create a new title, and create some ID if I want, run this. If I look over here, I should get, oh, I'm sorry, 404 not found. Should be able to create my room. What did I do wrong? I'm still logged in. All right. My request. Okay. So anyway, to go on with the lab, but that's basically what we're going to use in order to create our room. I don't know if I lost. I'm not sure what that happened. So the application type is JSON. It's a JavaScript. And if you look right, so this right here is this over here. The authorization is down here, which we're going to use. And they're still using the get as the example. And these name ID, max type, these are the kind of things that I'm asking about that particular site. And if we run this, again, and here's the type. It's a group. The team ID is this right here. So all that, any kind of information that we want, and all those are explained over here on the left. That and there's more that you can ask for. Here's the date that it was created. Those kind of things. Any kind of response that you want. All right. So 200 means that it works. If you got a 403, well, forbidden. Request is understood, but it's not allowed. In other words, you didn't put in the correct password or username to get in. All right, so we are going to use the post to Postman to create this API. All right, it says go to developerwebex.com, which is sort of where we're at already, and we have to get an authentication, an authorization, a token, code. Now it says go to docs. Well, there is no docs. There is documentation. And again, API reference, rooms. We're going to go to post. And the authentication that they're talking about, the authorization, is this right here on the left, where it says bear. Right, and it says copy, to get it to your clipboard. So we're going to copy this code. Again, it's only going to be good for 12 hours. Don't use it for production now because it's going to change. You would get a permanent one from Cisco. But that's what we're going to use. All right, so in Postman then. So we're going to open up Postman. Again, I've used this before, so I have some other programs here. But this is basically what we want to end up with. We're going to create a new account. And notice it has some of the same things that we just looked at when we ran the get. This is what we're going to create. This is what we're going to end up with. So you're going to go to new request, and we want to give it a name. So I already did one with the lab. I would use the lab number here, but I already created that. And save it somewhere. Well, I'm going to save it here in lab. Why did it do that? I already had one. All right. So that's where I'm going to save it. Now, across the top here, we have some different things that we want to do. Before we get to that, though, we want to make this not a get. We want to make it a post. So that's what they're talking about here. Okay. All right. Requested URL. Well, it's not the one that's typed there. The requested URL is this. Okay. Which might be able to, I think that is still the same. It's going to mess up. I just probably have to redo the authorization. Because that's the code that we want to use, that we ran a minute ago in order to make a room, one that didn't quite work. So hopefully it'll work when we do this. All right, so make it a post, put the URL in. All right, then we're going to go to, along this line here, we're going to go to headers. And in the headers, we want to do a key, and we want to do the authorization. So you have to type in authorization. Now, again, if yours doesn't pop up, again, like I've done this in the past, you have to type in the whole word. They pop up, when you do it. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to do an authorization. Now, what is the authorization? Well, the authorization is that bearer key that we had here. So let me copy it again. and I'm going to do a Control-C just to be safe. Hit OK. So now, when I come over here into the value, I still have to type in the word bearer, and then a space, and then I'm going to paste in the token. All right. Next, I need to add another key, and that key is content type. So again, if you go back over here, the content type was application JSON. So that's basically what we're going to put here. So I'm going to type in content type. Again, you get a drop down, select content type. And it's going to be the application JSON, JavaScript. And the character set is just, what it's going to look like when it prints it out, the type of font and stuff and size that it's going to be. All right, so that's what this part is down here. Now, again, don't worry about the number of headers. Yours will be different than mine because I've used this before. All right, set it to post. Paste in the URL. 2 keys. And we have to use the bear with the code. Now we're going to go to body. And in body, what we're going to do is we're going to have it sent to us in raw form, and we want it to be a JSON. Now again, if you don't have JSON here, click on there, make sure you pick JSON. Now it doesn't have application JSON there anymore, just JSON. All right, so what are we going to name this room? Well, that's what you're going to put down here. We're going to name this room Spark API via Postman. So whatever you would want to name, like we did Market 1 or whatever, that's what you would put here. That's what we're going to put here. Because this is code. This is JavaScript code. Here's the title. We got to put it into brackets, and that's what we're going to get. Okay. Now, if we did everything correct, and I click on send, hopefully it'll create a new room. And it did. Now I know it did because down here at the bottom, oh, no, it didn't. Request cannot be understood server due to malformed syntax. So I got something messed up in here. Problem was when I copy and pasted the name of our room, I accidentally included this colon and that blank, which got put in the front over here. That's why it said, I don't understand, the syntax. The syntax is how you type something in. So hopefully now, if I hit send, we should get a new room, which we do. There's the ID of the room, there's the name, there's the type, and if I go over to my WebEx rooms, there it is. And right now, I'm the only person in it. And then you would have to write, and you could even put that as part of the code, where you would run this and invite people and stuff. So that is how we create a room from one application to another. So you kind of think of it as, Postman, even though we're doing something very, we're building an API, it's no different than like activating a game or something like that on Steam. Because then eventually, if I want to, now that I have this code, I can include it in other things. I can keep this as a whole separate collection, and eventually I can build an API. I can take collections and put those APIs or collections into the API, and then create an application that I can use to interface with the WebEx, with this web page, using these developer tools that I code, in here. All right, so that is lab 32513 and lab 32514. We're going to do something similar to this, but we're going to tie it into the Raspberry Pi. So what we do in that lab is we're going to connect up our Raspberry Pi. We're going to light a light. But again, think of that light as something that you're controlling remotely, and you're setting an impulse. Once that impulse is sent there, it can turn anything on or off. So in this particular case, we're going to have our code. We're going to create. We have to go back and get our authorization key. Again, a little bit different. We don't have docs anymore. That's why I kind of wanted to go through this lab today. And we're going to bring that in, and instead of us using like Postman, where we typed in the the URL, this right here, that's going to go in part of the code. If I could edit undo that, mess that up. All right, and then in here we're going to create the name of the room, and all that stuff is eventually they're breaking it up into different parts. But eventually we're going to get down to the run the JSON code, and if a room is created, or I should say, if you've entered the room, the light will come on. If you exit the room, the light will go out. Will go off. So it's really a pretty neat lab. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. I've done this lab, say, in conferences before, and it's pretty neat. But if you don't understand all this stuff, and you haven't done this lab, it's kind of hard to get anything out of it. So hopefully that'll help some of you, and we'll go from there. Talk a little bit more about, if we have to, on Chapter 4. But again, since I have no questions, I don't know what you guys know or what you don't know. We will be here tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Goodbye.